Hello, everyone, and thank you so much for joining me today. I am excited to bring two very brilliant ladies to you today. First is Carla Thompson. She's a project coordinator with TCC Center for Military and Veterans Education. Carla has earned her master's degree in adult education from Southern New Hampshire University and is a doctoral candidate at Liberty University in educational leadership and administration general. Carla is also the committee planning chair for the Virginia Advisory Council on Military Education. My other guest is Ianta Summers. She is a former committee staffer with the U.S. House of Representatives Transportation Committee and currently a principal at Summers Public Affairs. She has worked in politics for the past 17 years and runs her own boutique firm that specializes in strategic partnerships, public relations, government affairs, and political engagement. She is a founding organizer with the Women's March on Washington and currently a senior advisor. She has a reputation for being an Uber connector because of her extensive networking as a Washington insider. Her work at the federal and state level has helped many businesses grow and solve complex problems. She has helped many NFL athletes, entertainers, media figures, and politicians raise their profiles and grow their businesses. She received her bachelor's degree from the University of Maryland in global business and public policy and is a single mother with her daughter, Madison. Welcome, ladies. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you for having me.
So we're talking about women. We're talking about issues that affect women and things that affect our day-to-day lives. So if you don't mind, I want to jump right on in. So let's talk about attractiveness. Now, we know that there tends to kind of be a double standard. So how do you feel about that in today's society? Is the double standard still there? Are there certain rules for women that don't affect men?
In terms of certain rules that affect women that don't affect men as far as attractiveness, I think it's all a personal preference, to be quite honest. I mean, that's something that is very subjective. But as far as society, the narrative that society wants us to think about is that, attractive people have more opportunity. Therefore, there is a kind of like a model figure of what attractive is, what features are attractive. I don't think that has changed.
So, ladies, there tends to be a double standard, if you will, when it comes to attractiveness or the way that we're allowed to carry ourselves as women. Or at least that's what they say. Do you believe that there's a double standard? Women can do this or they can't do that, and men are allowed to be a certain way when women aren't?
I think that in the era of Me Too, all of that is changing, and we're starting to, instead of blaming symptoms, we're getting to the root of the problem. For example, short skirts don't rape. Men, the rapist does. So I think that the standards and the way we think about just women in general are changing for sure. And I think that attractiveness is still a personal issue, but what we see as attractive in society has expanded and has become more diverse, meaning that we're seeing more faces of people from all different kinds of backgrounds that are being shown to us in the media over and over again, so that we're not only seeing just one prototype. I mean, because ugly people have children. I mean, I don't like to use the term ugly, but ugly, quote unquote, people have children too. So somebody finds them attractive.
I agree with that as well. I'd add that it has to do with a lot of your work environments too, and the trends that follow in the work environments. If you look at, the different areas in IT or in marketing or in education where I am, there's still a layer of, well, if you look this way, then you should be a faculty member or a teacher, or if you look this way, you should be an administrator. So, there's still a level of where you should be because of how you look or how you dress in an environment. So it depends on who's at the top in order to either abolish or banish that standard, or if your leader is a diverse mind and understands the idea of leadership and what that means into guiding your group or your team to the next level and removes that stereotype. But it still exists.
I think I might have to agree with you, ladies. Absolutely. Now let's move on to something that a lot of people don't talk about, and that is sports. Women and sports. Now, women's sports is big business, but it's not as large necessarily as men's sports. Now, is that because women aren't watching the sport? Is it because men aren't supportive of the sport? Is it that they aren't being marketed the same way that men's sports are marketed? Or is it a combination of things and it just needs to get fixed?
I would like to share that I have a friend or colleague who is actually a sports management agent, and she's a female in Atlanta who has done amazing things with her life, and her life story is amazing, and where she's come from a student at Hampton University and, went through life and, has given birth to 4 kids, and she's now a lawyer who is in the sports management industry. And I can tell you from just her own testimony, it was not an easy journey.
Right.
But she fell into that knowing that that was part of her passion. So for me, who's not a sportswoman, I'm married into sports and, part of my prenup. But when I look at other women who have become, a voice of sports, Good Morning America, Robin Roberts, I watch every morning because I admire her just intelligence of, her knowledge of sports. And so that draws me in just a little bit more to sort of, let me find the commonality in my marriage and say, oh, maybe I should look at sports because of Robin Roberts or because of our former student who's now in sports management. I mean, it's changing, but, some days we still look at, oh, great football season. I ain't got to deal with my husband. Right.
Understood. Understood. Ianta, did you want to add to that?
About the face of sports and how women... I think that women in sports is a huge industry, especially with Serena being one of the greatest athletes of all time. But I think that the WNBA particularly is struggling because of marketing. The marketing, the season, and I think that there's just not enough interest for I think that the WNBA is targeted to a specific group, that being lesbians, and I just don't think there's enough people that it's marketed to make it more attractive.
Right. So you think the marketing was entirely too narrow, that they should not have put the blinders on the marketing, but simply allow the market to be open to any and everyone who likes sports. Don't try to pigeonhole it.
And I also think that, in sport, women in sports, they often lose their femininity. And I think it's a disservice for women to lose their femininity, because that's part of the essence of being a woman. Now, people who are in, are in that third category that identify, in another category, neither man nor woman, they probably argue with me and probably say that, that's this, that, and the third. Femininity that's not a real reason, and this, that, and the third. But for me and heterosexuals, I believe, I think that heterosexuals are largely still thinking in terms of feminine and masculine. They don't, you know what I mean, coming from a man or a woman, not femininity coming from a man that's crossed over, or a woman or masculinity coming from a woman that's crossed over. So, you always have to be careful what you say when it comes to people, to heterosexuals and homosexuals, because homosexual people really think that they don't because they have such duality in them, it's easy for them to refute a lot of things because of how their mind works, I guess.
I gotcha.
And you need to add that, what was it on a talk show this morning? I think it was Steve Harvey's talk show where they were talking about there's going to be male cheerleaders this year at the Super Bowl. So, is that a step forward? Is that a step back? I mean, is that supposed to make me feel more comfortable as a woman in sports to say, everything's crossed over now? I think you're right in the point that marketing plays a big role. And, and right now with the whole issue with the NFL and everything that's going on with, politics trying to play a part in that and the knee bending thing, what constitutes the right of including a woman into the sports? Is it our own personal decision, or is what is attractive to us in that sport?
Well, I love that. Go ahead.
Yeah, I think that your personal decisions are affected by what you are attracted to. The law of attraction is very real. Manifestation, what you create in your mind, how you manifest it is very real. And I think that, for me, sports has always been a big part of my life. But, when I was a teenager and stuff, I played sports and I lifted weights and stuff like that. I used to be very involved in sports, but as I got older, that politics took over. So,
That is so true. Yeah, the politics start to get into stuff as we get older. Well, speaking in the lines of determining what we do and don't do, I want to talk about roles, if you will, or the idea of marriage, men, women, and what does marriage in today's time mean? So do men and women have the same expectations, do you think, when it comes to marriage?
No.
As they did? No. Okay, why don't they?
You know what? Men and women don't even have the same expectations on what they eat on a regular basis. So I know they don't have the same expectations when it comes to marriage. And I've never been married before, so I can't really speak to a marriage, with authority. But I do believe that traditional marriage is not sustainable when you have so much instant gratification in the world of social media and online pornography.
So it's making it harder to have a traditional sense of marriage because of the accessibility of everything else.
Not only that, I think that there's temptation is just too easy to access, and I think that people realize that marriage is difficult. I mean, how many marriage is difficult. The divorce rate in this country has been at 50% since the 80s or something like that. In other words, it's been that way for a long time. And so obviously there is a problem in our society if that's what it is. And we fail to address it, and we oftentimes just want to blame instead of really thinking about what the root cause of the problem is.
Right.
But you know what what to add to that is we have to now, just in my own personal experience, I've realized that I have to teach my daughters who they are first before they realize that they're ready for marriage. Because the commitment of that is true to its nature. So you can't walk into it with the expectation of fantasy. You have to walk into it with an expectation of responsibility. It's going to change. Communication. What do you expect from me, and what do I expect from you? I joke all the time that, I'm into a second marriage now, and I was married for 18 years the first time. And it took a long time to walk away because I believed in those vows. And I believed in creating a pattern that, didn't destroy my children because of divorce. So when I walked into marriage the second time, I said, you know what, I got to have a prenup. This prenup is not about money. It's not about property. The prenup was for my state of mind and knowing who I am at this particular time before I walk this journey again. This man needs to know who I am, what I expect, what I am, and what I'm not going to do. And it's still, that journey still is very different. But the level of expectation from a first marriage of living in that bubble of fantasy, because that's what our mothers impressed on us, now I'm in a marriage where I'm walking in my own steps. I'm making my own decisions. I'm comfortable with who I am and saying what I will and will not do, what my levels of expectations are, and this is what I need from you. And that comes with time, that comes with experience, but it also comes with sharing that with other people to say, marriage is not bad. It's just about who you walk that journey with. You can't change an individual, and that goes for a man or woman. You can't change that person. You can't inflict your expectations on that person to change them to who you think they need to be. And we have to open it up to God.
True. But
we gotta open it up to God.
Everybody says that you can't change people, but you can be the reason that somebody wants to change for themselves. People do
you can change the circumstances in your relationship and how you respond to it. But you can't change that person. You might be able to change the outcome of that situation, and they might get the light bulb moment. But there needs to be some levels where you say, how many times they're going to get that light bulb moment before you say, this ain't for me. And you can practice that just dating somebody before you marry somebody. Because here's the deal. Who they are when you date them is who they are after you marry.
Who they are when you get married. Exactly. And so many times we need to realize that when we do marry someone, we are actually saying, I validate you as you are right now, and I accept this behavior for my future as well. But ladies, don't say another word. We need to take a quick break, but when we get back, we will continue talking about only women. We'll be back right after this.
Being with Infants by Montessori teacher trainer and world-renowned child specialist Beverly Kovach is finally on DVD and digital download. The long-awaited 3D disc set is essential for any new parent, grandparent, or infant caregiver wanting respectful relationships with infants and their care. Being with Infants is broken down into 20 easy-to-digest video lessons, complete with demonstrations. Everything from diapering, feeding, the proper way of picking up infants, sleep, crying, environment, play, weaning, and much more are covered. Being with Infants is available on DVD and digital download at Walmart, Target, Barnes & Noble, and Amazon. Order today and be sure to follow Being with Infants on Facebook for free bonus content.
Smell Good Spa for the women who are making a conscientious change in their personal care products. Specializing in signature fragrance oils, hand-dipped incense, and wholesome bath and body and personal care products. Smell Good Spa. Use code HELLO25 for 25% off your order. Live good, feel good, smell good wholesomely. SmellGoodSpa.com.
Discovery. No, just a sec.
What would it look like if we listened more? Could the right voice, the right set of words, bring us all just a little closer? Get us to open up, even push us further? It could, if we took the time to listen. The most inspiring minds, the most compelling stories. Download Audible and listen for a change.
Hi everyone, Dr. Angela here. Did you know that Daily Spark is now on Facebook? That's right, you can visit with me at facebook.com/Daily Spark with Dr. Angela. I want to know more about what you're thinking. I'd love to know which interview did you find the most entertaining or the most informative. I want to talk to you, and I want you to be able to talk to me. Simply visit facebook.com/Daily Spark with Dr. Angela.
Before every slam, I pick out 7 outfits. 7. One for every match I need to win. I wouldn't pick 7 outfits if I didn't plan on wearing them all.
And we are back. Thank you so much for joining me today for the conversation about only women. Women only? How do we talk about the things that affect women and the outcomes of our day-to-day life? Well, ladies, I want to talk now about toys, something that people don't always think about unless they have little ones, unless they have children. So are we still buying toys that are gender-based, and is that okay? Meaning, we buy girls' dolls, and we buy boys' trucks. Are we still doing that, and is that okay?
I'm guilty of that. And you know what? It's culture. It's culture. Okay. It's culture of being raised of boys get boys' toys and girls get girls' toys. But I'm learning through my own grandchildren that that's not necessarily so. That, you know, I have a boy and a girl grandchild, and it's okay for him to play with the dolls and play with his sister, with what she likes to play. And it's also play with what toys, boy toys that he likes to play, and watch them interact with one another, and not, you know, put a negative oversight over it and say, oh, no, you're not supposed to do that. It's okay. They're toys. That's not real life. And we, as parents and grandparents, we have to just teach our children that it's okay and say that to them, and not just sort of put that, that negative strike on them to say, oh, well, you're a boy and you got to do boy things, and you're a girl and you got to do girl things. I'm learning that a lot more through my own grandchildren, that I can relax about it. I can show her other diverse toys, and she doesn't always have to have a white Barbie, or she doesn't always have to have a black Barbie. She can have a Latino Barbie because she has Latino heritage in her. She can have a Chinese doll, and because she probably somewhere in her heritage has Chinese in her. Who knows? But I have to sort of stop myself and think about, when I go and look at these toys, am I looking at them now from a girl-boy perspective, or am I now looking at them as that's too old for a 4-year-old? That's a teenage. Like this LOL stuff. This is new to us. And we know LOL is a lot of love. Okay. And I look at these toys and I'm like, LOL, that thing got a bikini on. What the world is a LOL with a doll and a bikini? So let me play devil's advocate with you. So let me play devil's advocate for you before I let Ianta answer that question. So I understand what you're saying. Grandmother says, let the boy play with what the boy wants to play with. Let the girl play with what the girl wants to play with. It's all about just having peace and serenity in that moment. They are happy. Allow them to use their imaginations. But we know that the world is going to say, boy, if you don't put that doll down, that's for your sister. So when he comes home and says, Grandma, they popped my hand, or they called me some unnice name, like a sissy or something. They called me an unnice name because I was playing with the doll that you said I could play with. How do you explain it to a child, the dynamics of this adult world, when it's okay for you, but it seems like the kid is reaping the repercussions of a very traditional world? How do we navigate that? Do you have any thoughts on that?
How do we navigate toys and whether or not they should be gender neutral, gender correct? Is that what you're saying?
You gave the example of it's okay for your grandson to play with a doll that may be considered a girl's toy. But the world is going to chastise him. So let's say he goes over to, one of his little buddies' houses, and they're playing, and he goes over and he wants to play with the doll. But his male friend says, what are you doing with that? That's for girls. Here, take this truck. The world is going to sometimes counteract what we try to teach at home. How do you think that for the person who's trying to maneuver that, when the world is teaching something than what is being taught at home, how do you navigate that with the little person?
I think that we have to have balance. I think that, you have to have balance. Like, I think that for every Barbie your son may play with, make sure he's playing with Legos. For every, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. I think that you just need to balance it out, really. Because at that, when you're what, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, you don't have any concept of really what gender is.
Okay.
You don't have any concept of
how adults think of gender.
Yes, you don't have that concept. Like, you don't think of gender in the ways of attractiveness. I don't think. You just think of everybody as neutral. I think. I'm not sure, but I knew I was a girl at 5. You know what I mean? But oftentimes we are introduced to our sexuality in nefarious ways when we're that young. So I think that it's important for us to have balance when it comes to playing with children's toys. Like if your son wants to dress up in a tutu, make sure he's dressing up in a fireman suit too. You know what I'm saying? If that's how you want to, allow your child to make choices, just make sure that he's balanced. So that, and if he gravitates towards one or the other, then you know how to guide this person. But at least make sure that the options are there for him. Don't just say, "Oh, you're a boy. I'm about Barbies to play with because I want you to be, I want you, you know what I mean? I want."
And
you
it
to
might
think,
just be a phase.
Yeah.
It might just actually be a phase in all of that. Also in education, in a lot of respects, the schools themselves are now shifting to non-gender toys and saying, it's okay for you to play with this toy. It's okay for that. So it's almost a level of reinforcement. If the child doesn't get it at home, then they'll get it at school.
Okay.
Because now the level of understanding is there and what we have to be respectful to and what we have to be sensitive to. We don't know what's going on in everybody's homes. We don't know what that child is going through when they go home. So in schools, you start to see the trends of the management styles of teachers just saying, okay, we're going to let that go, but let's talk about it in a minute or two. And sort of control that behavior to say, is this a behavior of concern or is this a phase? You know what I'm saying? It just depends on that child. I mean, we all have instinctive patterns, and as parents, we're instinctual to our children and what's going on. So if a teacher would come to me and say, he's playing with girls' toys, more than he does with the boys' toys, that's an alert for me to say, it should be as a parent, but not every parent does that. So it could be used as an indicator of what's to come, and parents need to be aware of that and just, not stress out about it, but just be aware. Watch it. And you'll know what to do later because, it won't be a surprise to you later. You'll know how to deal with it. And then ask for help if you do need to change that situation. You just never know. Sometimes they just grow out of it. I mean, what do you do with a boy who's growing up in a house full of women?
Right. I got you. Well, let me ask you this. So we're starting to see a few dolls that are professional in their look. There's lawyer doll, doctor doll, nurse doll, scientist doll. Is this change enough? Like, is this enough for the child to see to reaffirm what some parents are telling their children in that, yes, you can be a doctor, yes, you can be a scientist? Or do you think that more needs to be done to kind of cover the parents that aren't telling their children that they're able to do those things?
To a degree.
I would err on the side of, I would say more.
I would say to a degree. It still depends.
So we can always do more. It sounds like it's pretty much what both of you are saying. We can always do more.
Yeah, because it's still expanding the level of diversity and exposing them to things that, you know, they may not have otherwise been exposed to. You just never know what a child can learn in school because they see a diverse level of doctors and lawyers and, you know, black scientists, you know, or Chinese scientists that are exposed to them in school that they may not get at home.
Right. I gotcha.
So, you know, it just depends on how the parent views it in, you know, a positive or a negative way. I know that now I'm more inclined to buy a Barbie doll that is dressed up as a doctor or a scientist than I am just she's standing there in a bikini. You know, I see the difference now where when we were kids, that's all we had.
Right.
And we were left to our own imaginations to make the change to say, you know, this is my environment. Let me change it into I'm going to be a doctor. But now, you know, girls, we can buy this on the shelves for our girls. We can buy this on the shelves for our boys. It's just a level of change in the culture. You can see the level of diversity. It still has a long way to go, though.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I think
I want to throw a word out there, kind of change the subject again, and that is the word aggression. Many times we hear in the news that women are very aggressive, and the rest of the conversation goes downhill from there because they mean it as a negative connotation. So my question to you is that aggression and independence, those two words, seem to be viewed differently when we talk about men versus women. Why do you think that men are seen as strong when we say aggressive and independent, but women are called out of control or too much in the same sentence when talking about the same behaviors?
That's like the $1 million question, you know. That is the $1 million question, to be honest, because, you know, it all comes back to how we are brought up in a society and how women are supposed to be. We're supposed to be like children, seen and not heard. You know what I'm saying? We're supposed to be. We're not women. I mean, and I'm talking about society. This is Western culture with a dominating white society. White society says women are supposed to be. They are, you know, flowers that are supposed to be at home, taken care of, and tending to children and cooking for their men. White society does not see women as equal, and that's why we fought so hard for women to be equal. But in the black and when you're black and in this country particularly, a lot of since the civil rights movement, when you know, a lot of our homes, well, I'll say since the 70s, because there's been this phenomenon of single mothers, 60s and 70s, women have taken on the role of both parents. So women have been, women in our communities have had to play both roles. Therefore, they have been deemed far more aggressive, you know what I'm saying, than men, because we've had to be stronger and we've had to, like, carry whole entire neighborhoods on our backs, you know what I'm saying? So it goes back to our strength and our capabilities and the fact that we have always been able to make something out of nothing and be survivors.
Right. I think
I have to have a saying in business.
Say that again.
I'll add that I used to have a saying in business when I worked for corporate. Women come into the industry three ways. We come in as a good one, a bad one, and she's confused. And that, I said that because understanding the difference from working with a man and working with a woman has to come into an environment, especially at a corporate level, she has to come in with a certain style in order for people to take her seriously. And we have to take a step back and understand which style is she coming in as.
Right.
Because then you allow her to go through the process of her style, which one is she, and she would know. You have to take a step back and understand, does she know what she's doing or does she not know what she's doing? Let me give her a 30-day, trial period.
Right.
If she comes in one of those 3 styles, you as the employee know how to handle her. If she is aggressive, she might be coming in aggressive because of past experiences. And so she's got to, just be strong, and then she'll relax.
Right.
But I've had the experience where one has come in confused, and we were like, dang, how long is she going to be confused? I need her to get it together. I need her to pick one or the other. I can't do all 3. I can't do confused. I need you to pick one. And when you find that a woman who comes in a confused state of style of leadership, they tend not to last long. But women who come in the good manner or in the bad manner of aggression, they tend to last longer. And they tend to have the respect of their team in the long run. And I've noticed that a lot. And it sort of shapes my own style when I go into job interviews, or if I'm taking on a team leadership role, and how I need to come in and look at who am I working with. And assess that first. So it has to be a level of you in that leadership role to determine whether or not you need to come in aggressively, or you need to take a step back and play a different role until you learn your team. But overall, women are viewed to be aggressive in a corporate standing in any leadership role. It just depends on how she comes into that role.
I agree. Because I know that for me in business, I can't even smile at, I can't even I have to look, if I want people to take me seriously and really have a leadership role, I can't smile. I can't show any teeth, child. I cannot. Because if I do, there people will take this kindness for weakness, or take it for me being, they'll say, oh, she's not serious, or she's just flirting, or you know what I'm saying, or something like that. And when I'm just like, I'm being polite, and I'm to me, I'm being polite and I'm being kind and nice, but people don't appreciate that. And I've learned
or they
that
think
the
you're
hard
weak.
way.
Yeah, they think you're weak, and then you have to pop off on them, and you be like, "Oh, she crazy."
Yeah, yes. You pop off on them. You know what I'm saying? You smile at somebody when you're doing business, and they think that they can push you around until you snap on them, and they be like, "Oh," and then they don't want to talk to you no more because of something they did.
I used to have a saying. I was a teacher for many years, and I worked in alternative education, and you had to walk in with the corporate look, and you couldn't smile. And I used to have to tell my students, don't let this suit fool you.
Yeah,
please understand, I'm bilingual.
Right.
I'm bilingual as a woman, because if you see a level of weakness in me as a teacher, you still run over you. Don't let the suit fool you.
Well,
that's how you have to come in.
We are out of time for today, but thank you so much for sharing your insight, for sharing your wisdom, for sharing your opinions with us. And, I think as women, we can all agree that we have definitely come a long way, but we will definitely make sure that we continue to clear a path for the women who follow us. Can we agree on that?
Yep.
Amen.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Thank you, ladies. And thank you for listening and tuning in to this series. I hope that you enjoyed your day. We appreciate your tuning in. Bye-bye.